Good morning. Welcome to AP Computer Science A, where A is for advanced. So today we are going to be covering section 2.3, and you already know this because with you, you guys have your notes ready to go for section 2.3, and you have them ready with you. So in this lesson, it's going to be essential that you pay close attention, because I know it's going to be a little more lengthy than the last ones, but there's so many concepts that we're going to be covering in your AP exam on the open response and the multiple choice. You'll have to be able to do some encoding that allow these concepts will be there, and these are going to be building blocks in order for us to be able to understand objects, classes. We're going to cover constructors, but hang in there. So let's go through. You should have your Replit ready to go. Make sure that you type in your name, and don't forget to click on submit once you are done, so I know that you have coded along with me. So back from chapter 1, the first lesson that we did, what did we do? We actually were able to print a statement to the screen, right? We were able to output by doing a system.out.println, and then we say hello world. So from the very first, we talked about strings, and we were able to output them to the screen, right? And let me just press semicolon, and let's go and run it, and we have it string outputted to the hello world. Now, on the last lesson, we talked about how Java stores strings in memory, and we talked about the stack and the heap. So let's go and create. Let's get rid of this for now. Let's go and create a string. We'll go to declare it, and let's go and talk about schools. So that way it matches your packet. And we declare it, and then we can actually initialize it. This is Santa Fe High School. So on line 17 is going to declare it, and line 18 is going to initialize it. You also need to be able to be aware of what happens in memory. So we know that the stack can only hold primitive types, such as int, doubles, boolean, and today we're going to start talking more about char briefly. It's not part of your AP exam, so we don't cover too much in depth. So on line number 17, it declares it, correct? So therefore, it cannot be stored in here. So what happens? It takes a size integer, 32, and on line 17, it's going to declare it. So it's going to just basically just know that it's going to be referencing something. It's going to be school. Once it gets to line number 18, that you initialize it, it's going to take a string variable, a string what we call object, and we'll talk about that if I can select it. Here we go. And it's going to link it. Do you agree? And it's going to hold the memory location. So let's say the memory location is going to be at F1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Therefore, once it gets to line 18, the only thing that's going to hold in here is called what is this called? Do you guys remember? Correct. It's called the hash code. That is going to reference where we are actually storing this string. And remember, on the last lesson, the way that we represented strings was by using this. But now I need to go into a little more depth. So therefore, the way I'm going to be referencing strings are such as this, where on the bottom, we're going to talk about the index. So one of the things that we haven't talked about much is chars. So we have a string, but we also have a char, which is char is a primitive type. So let's say I want to be able to say a char, declare it, and let's call it A, or just A for short for today. Or we can say letter. And then we're going to initialize it. The way that we actually represent charts are by using a single quotation mark. We just say single quotation marks, and let's say S. And now let's go and print it out. System.out.println and A. And I'm going to run it. And print the letter S, correct? So what happens in memory? Can we store a chart into the stack? Yes. So on line 20, what is going to happen? On line 20 is going to declare the variable. So it's going to get a size, and it's going to store it right next to the name, right here. And now, because we named it the letter A, then that's going to be the name A. And that is stored directly. Now, once you get to line 21, it's going to be held in here. There is no reference, there's no pointer to the actual, because char is a primitive type, it can get stored directly in here. So therefore, the string is being held by, it's being composed by a whole bunch of chars that are connected together. And we are going to be allowed to use some of the methods that are in the string class, because string, and that's what they call string types, because string is its own class, and we are using this class. The same way that we use the scanner class, we are able to use this string class. So within the string class, and we can go into more into charts, and we're going to go into more into charts, but I want to do that during class so that way you guys can ask a few more questions. Otherwise, it gets a little overwhelming. But remind me to talk about charts in class as we move on. So now that we have constructed, let's get rid of this, and let's go and keep the first one. Now that we have constructed a string, we can actually do a lot more things. And if you refer back to your notes, we are going to be able to use the following methods. String is a construction. We're going to go over the word new in about 2 more sections, so just hang in there. Then we can do the length. In this case, we want to be able to start reading this type of notation. That right now is a little more challenging still, but we're getting there. You want to be able to read that this is an integer. That means that the length is going to give you an integer. And we'll talk about that in a second. This one here, so if you want a number 1, 2, 3, the third one here, the substring, is going to give us another string. The fourth one is going to give us an integer. The fifth one is going to give you a boolean, so true or false. The next one is going to give you an integer, or we say it's going to return, and then it's going to be a string and a string. So keep that in mind as we go into this section. So let's go and use the length. So what is the length used for? That is an excellent question. So what we can do now, the length is going to return the size of the string. So let me actually go back. If you guys can grab your a piece of paper. And I need to go down here. So I want us to write down Santa Fe High School. So make myself smaller. So I'm going to write down Santa Fe. And notice that I'm using the grid. Space, then high school. So therefore, I am going to place my index. And every time you guys come up on a question for your AP exam or on the test, you want to take the time to write the index. The index always starts with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So your index will always start with 0. And you might say, hold on, Diaz, how come they didn't start with 1? There are many reasons that as we actually start working with the methods of a string, it's going to make a little more sense. So therefore, how many characters, what is the length of this phrase, Santa Fe High School? It's not 10. So your length is going to be 11. It's going to be the index plus 1. Do you agree? And let me just erase this part. So therefore, Java will allow us to be able to get the length of the string. So in this case, the name is school. That is the name of where it's stored. So in order to be able to get the number 11, it's going to give us an integer. So we're going to say, we have to catch it. And that's what we're going to be talking about. It's going to give us an integer, and we need to catch it and store it somewhere else. So therefore, it's going to be 10 int, and let's go and call it length. Is equal to, we are going to use the name of the string, which is school, dot length, if I can spell it correctly. Then I'm going to go and print out the length. So system dot out dot print ln, and we're going to type in length. And according to this, and a lot of times I want to start placing a little spacing here and here, so it'll be a little easier to read. And you probably want to do the same thing. So therefore, if I run it, 11, correct? Now, let's go and make another string. And now that we talked about on the next string, I'm going to actually, on the next line, 24, we are going to make another string. So string, let's say string is going to be chiefs. Let's say just A for now, simplify our code. So that's going to be once a chief, and then we'll say string B equal to always a chief. So do me a huge favor. Oh, semicolon. And let's in here, let's just say the length of school. And that way we get the code. And let's go on the next one. I want you guys to think, what is if I print system.out.print ln, and I say the length of A. I'm still going to place a line in here. What will be the length of A? And let's go and do the same thing for, and let's go and say A the length. What's wrong with that statement? Correct. Let's turn a int. It's going to, and we need to store somewhere. So therefore, we're going to say int, and we say length A equal. And now let's do the same thing for int length B equal B length. If I can spell it correctly, that might be helpful. So therefore, this is going to be, notice that we're using the same method because that is going to be basically just like the handle where it's going to tell Java what we want to count. We're going to count the letters or the length of A. And then in here, B, it's going to allow us to count the letters of the length of B. So therefore, now we can actually just print plus A length A. Get out of the way, huh? Get out of the way, Diaz. Make yourself small. There you go. And now let's go and do the same thing. And now let's go and say system.out.print and then the length of B space plus length of B. And sometimes I'll put an extra space in there. Just makes it a little easier to read, but you don't have to. So I want you to think, before you press run, I want you to think, what is going to be? I know that the length of school is 11. What is going to be the length of A and the length of B? Think about it. Right, let's go and write it down. So you do need to take the time to write it down. Otherwise, you're going to be making little mistakes on your AP exam. So I know that this is maybe simple, but my brightest kids who starts to refuse to do the minor things starts to get 4s instead of 5s. So let's go and say once A, notice I left spaces in there, achieve. And then just go and start placing. Starts with index starts with a 0. So this is the index of the string. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But we start because we start with a 0. The length will be equal to 11 plus 1, which will be 12. So place a line here and say plus 1. Correct? Now, always achieve. Take the time to write down. And you can do in your notes, but I prefer on a graphics paper. I know I probably should include 1 next year. So therefore, what is the length? Let's go and place the index. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So therefore, the length for this one will be 14, correct. And let's go and run it just to confirm. Length. Oh, yes. What did you do? Let's see. So one of the things is, oh, it's expected a parenthesis on line 22. Line 22, we did not place a concatenation. So it's one of the things that you want to get used to just debugging it. Is that it? If I saw another mistake, you're not telling me. Oh, semicolon, Diaz. Anything else? Length of B. Oh, Diaz, spell it correctly. Let's see. Anything else? I'm not redoing the video. Let's continue on. And this is something that happens and you want to be able to count debug it as well. And there you go. So we have 11, 12, and 14. Doesn't match. So many times we're going to be using this as we go into the algorithms and the coding for tomorrow, which will be a little more challenging. It starts to get a little more fun. So that is the length. Any questions on this? So let's go and keep, I'm going to keep the length. I'm actually going to keep the length. I'm going to delete this part. And I'm going to delete this part. So now we have all 3, and we have the length for each one, right? Length for the school is just called F. So let's say, that's fine. Now, let's go into the next one. So we talked about length. Let's talk about substring. Substring is going to be essential. Now, if we look at the substring wording, it tells you that it's going to be returning a string. So in this part, something that we want to be able to keep it and say, well, substring, and there's actually another one that we're going to use. We'll talk about that in a second. String, substring. So therefore, we're going to store into a string. Length was going to give us an integer, so therefore we store into an integer. Substring is going to be giving us a string, so we want to make sure that we store it into a string. So what does substring do? Substring is going to give you a piece of the wording. So it's just going to give you just pieces of it. So we have to store it into a string. So let's go to string and just say part equal to. Now let's go and start with Santa Fe. So therefore, if we want to be able to use once a chief, then we're going to use the handle A. If you want to use ours a chief, we're going to use the handle B. If you actually want to be using Santa Fe, then we're going to use the handle school. So that's something that you want to be able to keep in mind. Since we want to be able to get part of Santa Fe, we're going to use school dot then substring. Similar that we did A dot length, B dot length, and in this case we do have the open close parentheses. And same thing that we did school dot length. So therefore, if I want to be able to get a piece of Santa Fe, I want to be able to use the handle school. And then we're going to have two numbers in here. This is going to be what the initial number. So let's say we want to be able to get the word or just Fe. See, if I want to return that, according to this, this will be the first, the index, what we call the index. Remember, those little red numbers are called the index. So we're going to start at 6 all the way to, let me just make an extra space, all the way to what should be my next number? Not 7, but 8. So something to keep in mind is that Java will start at 6 and it'll stop at 8, but it's not going to include 8. That is something that we want to quiz you on a daily basis. So therefore, according to this, if I print the system flat out of print ln and print part, now this is going to return a string. It's going to give us a string that we need to be able to store it in another string, which is named part. And if I run it, so let's go run it, and it should be okay. Are you ready for a challenge? So let's say I want the word, actually, let's go and connect. I want to do something more fun. I'm actually going to connect both words in here. I'm going to go and say int, let's go and do it up here. String C is equal to A plus B. Let's go and say once a shift, always. Oh, and there's no space in there, right? So let's go and place a space because I do want it to have a space. So let's go and say plus, so space plus. And once a shift, always a shift. And now I'm gonna go ahead and calculate the length and see if you can place your index in there underneath. Go ahead and pause if you need more time. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So therefore, that should be the letter C. Let's go and calculate the length. Int length C is equal to, now we need the handle, which is C dot length. Let's go print length C. So what will it print? So right now we are printing the C, which will be 27, correct? So that is the length. So I do have a challenge for you. The reason that I did it so a little longer is that I want you guys to print the following. I want to highlight it. I want you guys to use the substring, and I want you guys to change it so that way you guys can print what would that look like? I'll zoom in so you guys can see it. So how can I change that? Line number 33. Let me just make it line number 31. So when I print it, and I'm going to print system.out.println part. What do I need to do? So you'll print sheet. Try it and see. What do I need to change? Got it? Excellent. So in this case, I do need to be able to first, I need to change the handle because I want to be able to get from the word C. So therefore, I need to be able to get it from the word C, which is up here. And so I need to be able to change the handle. Second, which number do I need to start? Which index? 7. And which one do I need to finish? 11. But remember that if I type in 11 in here, it's not going to include the letter F, correct? Because even though 11 is not going to include that one. So therefore, I need to be able to stop at 12 because 12 will not be included. And I know you tell me, so yes, that's dumb. Why does it do that? What can we, and there's a reason why we're going to cover it today. Just be patient. Excellent. Okay, I have another challenge for you. I want you guys to do the same thing, but now see if you can do always A. So how will you change it? To be able to do always A. And let me just fix this because sometimes my document camera will act up. But it doesn't take me long to fix it. And we are back in business. So how can I do this? How can I go ahead and print always A? Go and modify the code. You got it? This will be on your test. Correct. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and change it to starting at 13. And I'm going to end at not 20, but 21. And that should give me, I would say. One of the other things that we do, that we use it is, let's say we want to be able to get the first. So let's go back to this one here, which is string A. This is B, and that is C. So I want you guys to give me the first 4 letters. If I want the first 4 letters of A, what do I need to change? You got it? Change it. Pause it. So correct. First, I need to go to change this to A because I need the handle. That means I'm going to be using the first this string here. That's going to tell Java that I'm using that string. So you want to make sure that it matches. Then a dot substring. I'm going to give just a part of the string. So therefore, I'm going to use. I'm going to start. I want the word. What is it? Once. I want the word once. So therefore, I'm going to start at 0 all the way to not 3, but 4. Correct. Now, can you guys do the same thing? But now I want the word always from here. What do I need to change? Go and change it. Remember, this is essential. I'm taking the time to go through this. I know it's going to be a little more lengthy lesson, and I do apologize. But so how will that look like? Correct. So in that case, that will be, we're going to change the handle first, B, and now it's going to be from 0 to 6. If you place a 5, you know it's not going to give you the S, right? I want it, so it has to be 6. because even though the 6 is not going to be included, it only includes the one before that. So therefore, if you want starting word, starting set of number of letters, it goes from 0 to that letter. There's another substring that we are going to be looking at this. And well, let's say we want, let's go and say I want one more thing. Let's say I want the letter or the word chief from here. How will we achieve that? Go and type it up. So it's, well, we again from here, I just want the chief. Got it? Correct. So in this case, we are going to go from 9 all the way to 13. To the next one, 14. So therefore, even though there's not a 14th letter, if we want to include the last one, it's going to be 14 because that's not going to cover it. Now, if I do 15, it's going to give us something that we call arrow bounds exception. You can go up to 14, but you can't go any further than that because it's going to say, hold on, that doesn't exist 15. I'm doing you a favor, including 14, just so you can print the last letter, but there's no 15. So it's going to give you an arrow bounds error. So just be careful. So notice that on the, I can't go beyond the index. You can go one more, it'll be a little forgiving. It'll be a little flexible, just go one more byte. Once you go to 15, you're going to get an out of bounds exception, and we're going to cover this more later. But another way that we can actually do substrings is that Java, which is now you note, but we'll make sure that let's go and write it down on the next line right underneath. So if you guys can do me a huge favor and write that underneath in here. Not sure why I did not include it. But therefore, we can also just do a substring. If we actually just type in one number, 9, it's going to know that we want from starting from 9 all the way to the very end. So therefore, if I want to be able to get the word chief, always chief in here. So from the last one, if I want to start from number 7 all the way to the very end, in that case, that is the handle should be C, and that should be a 7, and we're going to run it. Chief, always a chief. So once you only include one integer, it's going to start from that one all the way to the very end. So it's a lot of things to keep in mind, right? So the fact that it starts from 0 all the way to the very end, and that's 13, even though the length is 14, it works really, really well in Java, and such as the following component. Let's say I want, you know how we were getting the last 4 letters, the last 4 letters of each word. If we actually are using the variable length, the length of the, we can actually use from length C. Remember, we're talking about the handle C, which is once a chief, always a chief. Then we can do, if we want the last 4 letters, we just do -4. And according to this, it should give us the same thing, if you want the last 5 letters, we just do 5. If you want the last 10 letters, we just do 10. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So it works really well, but you do need to be able to keep that in mind. If I want to get the last 5 letters of a word, I need to be able to calculate the length, then -10, because it's going to start, let's say the length for this one is 27. So what is going to happen is going to say the length is 27, and then -10 is going to start at the 17. So therefore, it's going to start at number 17, and that's what it does. Now let's make it smaller instead of crouching. So 27 minus 10 is 17, so therefore it starts at 17. So therefore, this works really, really well. Another way that works well in the context of just using the index is, let's say we wanted to get the first 5 letters. So how can we achieve that? If I want to be able to get the first, let's say the first 4 letters. If I want to be able to get the first 4 letters, how can I type that up? It'll be from 0 all the way to 4. And if I run it, if I want the first 10 letters, it'll be from 0 to 10. If I want the first 15 letters, or the first 20 letters, so it goes all the way from 0 all the way up to, let's say, the first 21 letters. I go from 0 all the way to 21. So in that concept, that works really, really well. You want to keep that in mind. This one and the one that we just did where we did the last 4 letters. Any questions? So that is a substring. Are we done with it yet? No. So now let's continue with index of. So in this case, index of is also going to return what? Let's go look at that. It's going to return a number. It's going to give us a number. It's going to give us where the word is located, and if it doesn't find it, it's going to give us a -1. So in this case, we are going to, we're not getting an integer, we're getting a integer. We're not getting a string, we're getting an integer. So let's just call it part, just to keep it the same. And if we can find any word to see if there's a word within the string. So let's say if I want to be able to find out if the word chiefs it's in there, what will it return? It will return the first occurrence. So even though we have 2 words chief, it's always going to return the first one. So therefore, if we print part is going to be an integer, which will be the location of the word. Oh, I did not type the index of. Right? So index of should be able to give us the location. So index of is going to let us know whether it's in there. So therefore, if I type, and remember that's always going to be the first one. If it's typing always, it's going to be 13. If I want the word a, well, there's 1, there are 2 in there. So therefore, it should always give us the first one. Now, if I remember that a, uppercase A and lowercase a are 2 different letters. So therefore, that is a 13. So index is to be able to see if we can locate and to see if there's a section of the string that has that specific thing that you want. And you have to remember that it is going to return an integer. Equals. Now, the next thing that we need to cover in this case is equals, but actually we're not going to cover to equals until we're going to come back to it because it gets a little more challenging. But we do need to be able to, and you're not going to be using on your coding activities, but we do need to be able to talk about compare to. Now, compare to is going to return a value that's less than 0 if one is less than the other, and it's going to return 0 if they're equal to each other, and returns a value, and don't worry about the equal to, we'll come back. Well, actually we can. It's going to return the equal if they're the same, contains the same string, and it's going to return a positive value if it's greater than. So therefore, there are times that we need to be able to compare 2 strings. If I want to be able to compare A with B, remember, it's going to return what? It's going to return an integer as well. So it's going to give us an integer. So what we're going to do in here, we're going to say part, we're going to pass part, it's going to give us a negative, a 0, or a positive. And we're going to do compare to. And we are going to compare C, or actually let's compare A with B. So therefore, one of the things that I want you guys to do, I want you guys to do a number line, just like I have on your notes. We are going to place a number line, and we're just going to place it 0 here. And the word that you are comparing it to is B. B is always. So therefore, I'm going to place always. And something to keep in mind is that you are just the keyword compared to. You compare an A, you're going to compare it to B. So therefore, what goes inside the parentheses, that goes into the 0. Now, always has the word A. Starts with A. Now, how about you compare it? A is once. So if you think about a number line, it's once to the right or to the left of always in alphabetic order. It's to the right. So therefore, I'm going to place the number here, and it's going to be positive. So therefore, it's going to give you a positive number, and it's going to be once. So therefore, if I print this, it should give us a positive number as you are for 14. And if you count A, B, C, D, then we can actually get to 14 from there. Now, we can also even compare it to not just a variable string, we can actually compare it to A. It's going to be compared to A is always, so let's say it's 0. So therefore, when we do a number line, we are going to place 0 here. Then the one that we compare it to is 0 achieved compared to, so therefore this will get 0 achieved. Then A is once achieved. So therefore, it's once to the left or to the right. Is it before the Z or after the Z? It's before. And look at the examples on your notes. So therefore, that should return a negative value. So therefore, if I run it, negative value. It's not going to correspond to the number of letters. So don't worry about trying to guess the number. The only thing that matters is going to be whether it's positive or negative. And look at the examples on the notes. Now, what if I say A is once achieved, and what if I say once A achieved? What should it give me? If they're equal, it should return A, 0. So at this point, this is how we're going to be comparing two strings, whether they're equal to each other. If we want to be able to compare that they're the same, just use compare to, and then you should end up with a 0. You might end up with a negative or positive. Look at the examples on your notes. Otherwise, I don't make the lesson longer than or it is. And the last thing that I need to cover is uppercase. 2 uppercase and 2 lowercase. And then I can't describe the equals here, but I think it's better if we actually talk about it later. So don't worry about the equals method. It gets a little more challenging in that aspect of it. So the last thing that I need to be able to cover is the uppercase. In the uppercase, let's look at the description. It's going to return a string. So therefore, many times you're going to have to place the input from a user, and you're going to place it into uppercase right away. And we need to be able to change it. So let's go and get rid of this line and that line. And we're just going to keep those A, B, and C. If I want to be able to get that once achieved, I want to convert it into an uppercase, then you can go string D equal to, I need the handle, so it'll be A to uppercase, and that's it. And I'm going to print D. And then when I print D, you should give me all uppercase. Or I can do 2 lowercase. And there's going to be times that you want to be able to change it to one to another. Now, if I want to be able to change always achieve to lowercase, then I need to change the handle because that is variable B. And if I want to be able to change once achieve, always achieve all to lowercase, I can change just the handle. And now, Or if I want me to print to uppercase, I can just do it. So therefore, this will conclude the lesson for today. Make sure you guys have a quiz tomorrow or the day after. Have a good day. And email me if you have any questions. I know this is a little more lengthy than our original notes. But yeah, it's a lot to take in. It's a lot of information that we went over. Have a great day. I'll see you guys next time.